If we look through the ages of all great trilogies, whether it's the Star Wars original trilogy, people know that Empire Strikes Back is generally considered the best. If we look at Lord of the Rings, most people will say The Two Towers has one of the greatest battles. Even if you look at comic book movies, it's well known that The Dark Knight is best of the Nolan Batman films, Winter Soldier is the best Captain America movie, Godfather 2, Men in Black 2, well, actually maybe not.
Come again?
But you can see where I'm going with this. But in some instances, I prefer the third entry. Return of the Jedi is my favourite Star Wars, Return of the King is my favourite Lord of the Rings, and Batman Arkham Knight is my favourite Arkham game. If you're new to my channel, I've been super excited about the upcoming release of Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and I've replayed every Batman Arkham game. And it's come down to what, at least in my opinion, is the best comic book video game of all time and maybe one of the greatest games, in my opinion. Arkham Asylum started off the series on a great start, but the last boss fight was a bit of a letdown. Arkham City opened up the game and improved in every area of Asylum and gave us huge amounts of characters via Batman's Rogues Gallery. Harley Quinn's Revenge had us play as Robin and gave us some proper challenges that Batman would have completely crushed. Now, Batman Arkham Origins was a great story, but a copy and paste of Arkham City, and I don't like to talk about the Cold Heart DLC, but Batman Arkham Knight not only improves on City, but it gives us the player a huge open world to play in. An ending to the Arkham trilogy that Rocksteady started, and yes, I get that it's not really a trilogy because Origins was a prequel, but it also gives us the Batmobile to explore Gotham City with as well. If you've never played any of these games, honestly, you need to check them out, but obviously I'll be going into some spoilers too, so you've been warned. Arkham Knight starts several months after the events of Arkham City where, yes, the Joker is dead, and unlike my suspicion that Batman isn't dead in Gotham Knights, Joker here in Arkham Knight is dead. Now the game starts with you lighting the furnace and actually burning his body. From this, Gotham City waited for the inevitable fallout of gang wars and territories, and nothing happened, of course, until Halloween night, where Scarecrow has his goons cause chaos with a new fear toxin and threatens the citizens of Gotham to flee, or else. From here, basically all of Batman's Rogues Gallery comes out to play, and we've got a new villain on the scene with the Arkham Knight, who knows all of Batman's tactics, gadgets, and even his weaknesses in his armor and the Batmobile. Now, Arkham Asylum started off with us as Batman escorting Joker through the administration wing of Arkham Asylum. Arkham City had us as Bruce Wayne being admitted and dragged into Arkham City, but Arkham Knight does it a little bit different. We're playing in first person as a police officer inside Paul's Diner, a reference to the great Paul Dini. Anyways, the game has us in a diner just ordering dinner before a patron lets you know that someone is smoking in the back of the diner. And before you know it, it's one of Scarecrow's goons who gasses you and has you hallucinating. And for a brief moment, this game turns into a first-person shooter, if that. But rather than shooting monsters, you're actually shooting civilians and you're hallucinating this. From there, most of the civilians in Gotham City have evacuated and all that's left are police and thugs. From there, you'll set out to find and take down Scarecrow, but you'll also have to deal with nearly all of Batman's Rogues Gallery. You go into a penthouse apartment where you think Scarecrow is hiding, but you'll find Poison Ivy has been captured and trapped by Scarecrow's goons. Transporting her from a hostage situation back to the GCPD, you'll need to use the Batmobile, where a new game mechanic comes in, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Fast forward, tracking down Scarecrow, and you'll find out that he's hiding at Ace Chemicals, and he's not alone. We're introduced to the new character of the Arkham Knight, who's got a private militia, unarmed tanks, and we'll get to that in a second, but basically has taken control of the city. Trying to stop the Arkham Knight and Scarecrow, we're dosed with Scarecrow's new and improved toxins, and it hits Batman a little bit differently, and Batman starts to hallucinate and see the Joker, who sort of becomes a bit of a comedic relief, but also the devil on Batman's shoulder. But that's not all. Now, previously in Arkham City, Batman was injected and infected with the Joker's blood, which had been poisoned from the Titan formula that turned him into the hulking beast in Arkham Asylum, and it was slowly killing him. If you played Arkham City, you'd know that the Joker blood was slowly making Batman hallucinate and die, but it turns out that some of Joker's blood made it out of Arkham City and into hospitals, and 5 patients have been infected, and they slowly start turning into the Joker. Not Mark Hamill Joker, but turning into their own versions of the Joker. And each infected patient has a different personality or characteristic from the Joker. The secretary from Queen Industry, Christina Bell, has taken the Joker's over-the-top and crazy personality. Johnny Charisma is a TV personality who has taken on Joker's sportsmanship and TV goofiness. Albert King is a brute who can't be beaten and is constantly looking for an engagement that I honestly can't recall I think Joker really ever having, at least in this game. And Henry Adams, however, is the one patient who has no symptoms, as everyone else's skin is turning white and their hair is turning green.
But wait! There's more!
But Henry, on the other hand, has Joker's lack of humility and is a manipulative madman. But again, spoilers, 5 people have been infected with Joker's blood, and the last person is Batman himself, and rather than the Joker's showmanship or crazy personality, or just fucked up bait and switch like Henry does, Joker basically takes the wheel and controls Batman. Now, as Batman has been tied to the Joker for, well, over 10 years, I kinda like this, that the Joker has a place inside Batman's brain, and now that part is starting to take over Batman. It's kinda cool. Batman's eyes turn green and he even starts talking like Mark Hamill at one point too, and again, it's kinda cool.
Look at me! I'm amazing! And this body!
Throughout the game and tracking down Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight, Batman will slowly start to lose himself to the Joker infection, and it even starts to trick the players too, reminding me a little bit of how players thought that the Arkham Asylum game was broken when you fight Scarecrow for the 3rd time. You'll see billboards out in the world with the Joker's face on them, and if you look at them then quickly glance back at them, the billboards are back to normal. You'll see the Joker hanging out on rooftops, and you'll find yourself stopping and paying attention to what the Joker's doing. It's like watching the devil on your shoulder showing you what he can do.
Reason number 2. Look what I can do.
But what does that have to do with anything?
No. He's got a point.
Now, gaming marketing can be very misleading. We all know this. And Arkham Knight was 50-50. Now, before I get to what they got wrong, there is something that Arkham Knight 100% nails, and that was the tagline of, "Be the Batman." And this is the closest I'm ever going to get to being Batman myself, even if there is an alternate universe out there somewhere where I am indeed Batman. But you'll be chasing down Scarecrow or moving through Gotham City, and you'll get a call from Alfred that Two-Face is robbing banks, or a call from Nightwing that the Penguin has weapons and he's hiding money throughout the city. You'll need to actively manage multiple villains at once, and who do you go after? Do you go to Lucius Fox, who you're not able to reach inside Wayne Tower, or do you follow the trail of smoke around the city that's tied to Firefly?
Is something burning?
My spinach puffs!
There are a heap of villains in Arkham Knight, and there's a chance your favourite Batman villain is here too, unless they're a new character that was made after 2015. We've got the return of Scarecrow, who we last saw in Arkham Asylum being mauled by Killer Croc. His face looks fucked up and his character looks like it's been pulled out of a slasher film, and it was also voiced by John Noble, Boromir's dick of a father from Lord of the Rings. There's Two-Face, who is, well, as mentioned, robbing banks. There's Penguin, whose side missions have you doing combat challenges with Nightwing. Riddler has kidnapped Catwoman and you're going around town doing Riddler challenges. A mysterious killer has mutilated bodies and left them strung around the city with opera music playing. Man-Bat is flying around causing mediocre YouTubers to immediately have smelly brown substance leaking from their pants. If you've got the Season Pass too, well, then there's further DLC in this game as well, which I'll be covering a little bit separately, but there's also more rogues gallery out there that you'll need to take down, like Mr. Freeze, who's had his beloved wife Nora taken from him from the Arkham Knight. Gameplay wise, the standard combat is improved and smoother, with also some new gadgets and abilities. Early in the game, Batman gets a new and improved suit. You'll start the game with a suit that's a little similar to the one from Arkham City before it starts to get scratched and a bit tattered near immediately. Shit, Batman's gotten so good at being Batman, he literally escapes Poison Ivy's attacks and meets her at the bottom of an elevator before she gets there.
It can't be. How did you get back here before us?
How did we, Kronk?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
But Batman gets a new and improved armored suit that looks fucking fantastic. Honestly, it's one of the greatest Batman suits, period. The moving plates on the chest, the insane tech gauntlets, and just like in previous Batman games, the cape flows fantastically in the wind and the rain. The suit also gives him a new ability called Fear Takedowns. Basically, the suit allows Batman to move faster and basically use an instant combat ability takedown to take out multiple enemies at once. If you silently take out an enemy, Batman can then use a Fear Takedown. It's a little bit like the win button from Splinter Cell Conviction, but you're not killing people. This has Batman quickly sweep through and take out enemies and is used to, well, quickly take out enemies. Fear takedowns also work really well if you not only want to take out multiple enemies, but you want to take out the annoying enemy variants first, like enemies carrying shields or guns, or a new enemy variant, the medic, who revive knocked out enemies. But you've also got some new gadgets too, like the voice synthesizer, which mimics the sound of commanders like Harley Quinn or the Arkham Knight, so you can command enemies to open doors or go near areas. Go near crumbling walls so you can set explosive charges on them and then take them out. Even ask enemies to go near devices so then you can sabotage them, like electrifying weapon crates or exploding a generator. There's also now the remote hacking device, which used to be called the cryptographic sequencer, and thankfully I'll never need to say that again. However, this can be used to hack into enemy drones to take out multiple enemies or to simply unlock doors. There's the weapons jammer, which is, yes, used to jam weapons, but it's also used to jam the medic's revive packs and can also be used to take them out if anyone tries to revive them. But one of the coolest and probably most used gadget is the remote control for the Batmobile, which for some reason reminded me of James Bond remote driving his car in Tomorrow Never Dies. There are moments where your back is against the wall or you're cornered, and remote calling the Batmobile is the way to go. If you drive past the Batmobile when using the remote control for the Batmobile too, you'll see Batman leap into it as it drives past him. Now the sandbox for the game is, well, obviously bigger than Arkham City and Origins, and it's an absolute fucking blast. Now, I've had this game installed on my Xbox One since it released, and it is now transferred over to my Xbox Series X for one simple reason. I return to this game constantly just to free roam around as Batman. Whether it's driving the Batmobile around and freaking out thugs, or dashing around rooftops and gliding through the city, striking fear into enemies, despite the fact that I've captured everyone and there's no members of the Rogues Gallery still at large, when you do finish the campaign and all the side missions too, not only can you replay this fantastic game a second time round if you want to with New Game Plus, but there is a metric ton of suits for Batman to wear, and you'll be able to use your fan favourite Batmobiles too if you're not a fan of this Batmobile. Well, and now it's time to talk about the actual Batmobile itself. Yes, it's a transport that's used to quickly get around the map, and yes, it's also a tank, which is a fun gameplay mechanic alone, sure, but it doesn't really feel like a Batmobile. Sure, Batman had a tank in the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns, and we had a pretty sweet Batmobile in Arkham Asylum, and the movie Batmobiles had gadgets that made them useful, like the battle mode in the Tumbler, or the cannons on the Batfleck Batmobile, or the machine guns that would pop out of the '89 Batmobile. But none of them transform into a tank like this does. Now anyways, depending on what button you press determines on how the Batmobile works. The right trigger drives the car, and the X button on an Xbox controller has you pull the brake and drive in reverse, while the left trigger has you transforming the Batmobile into the tank. When in tank mode, the right trigger fires the main cannon while the right bumper fires a machine gun. But for anyone concerned about Batman killing people with this tank, which he totally sorta does if you ask me, it fires right beanbag cannons when fired at people, and if you run over thugs, it electrocutes them, sending them flying away from the car. But this doesn't stop you running over knocked out enemies with the car as it is. The tank can also be used to fire a winch to climb up the side of buildings, because every building in Gotham can support a Batmobile, and also a bit of puzzling, but also it can send an electrical charge to fire up generators. Throughout the 3 islands of Gotham, there are unmanned tanks controlled and commanded by the Arkham Knight, and this allows Batman to flat up destroy the tanks without having to worry about killing people. It's a bit on the nose, like in Batman v Superman when Doomsday is in Metropolis and the news reporters say that there's no one in the area because they've all gone home for the day, so they don't have to worry about killing people. Basically, if you've played Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, each island is controlled and patrolled by the Arkham Knight's forces, and to completely clear the island, you'll need to take out outposts and towers, and also clear tanks and drones and defuse bombs that the Arkham Knight has placed around each island. Basically little side missions that will level you up as you complete them, and these side missions will give you level up tokens, as will capturing and completing other side missions like stopping Two-Face's thug from robbing a bank or capturing Man-Bat. Not only can you level up Batman and his gadgets and his combat abilities and his health, but you can also upgrade the Batmobile. Now, one of the first abilities I went for when upgrading Batman was his grappling gun launcher to properly launch him into the air. And the Batmobile can also do this too, ejecting him from the car, which comes in handy when you need to jump on Firefly as you race around trying to chase him. That's one of the great things about Arkham Knight though compared to Arkham City, and it's its level design and layout of the city. In Arkham City, if you wanted to go from the Joker's hideout in the old Sionis steel mill to the Iceberg Lounge, you had to go past the GCPD, past the courthouse and up to the museum area. But as it's an open world and it's kind of a third character for the game if you will, if you need to go from Wayne Tower to the Clock Tower where Oracle is, no problem, you can go straight there. There's also heaps of hidden details and stuff for fans to geek out about around every corner. There's a Queen Industries building and a LexCorp building, and hell, if you go to Bruce Wayne's office in the Wayne Tower and check your messages, there's a missed call from Lex Luthor and he's left you a message, and it's pretty damn cool. And in that same office too, there's a food bowl for Ace the Bat Hound.
Mr. Wayne, Lex Luthor calling. Apologies for going via your direct line, but I grow tired of these games. LexCorp has made a very generous offer for Wayne Tech's Applied Sciences division, yet your persistent unavailability begins to look less like a busy schedule and more like deliberately antagonistic behavior. Come now, meet with me. I'm sure we can come to an agreement. A man of your refined taste doesn't need an Applied Sciences division after all. He needs another $1 billion.
Outside of its great gameplay and feeling like Batman, there is a metric ton of suits available here. Not only do we have the iconic suits like the traditional blue and grey with the big yellow bat chest logo in the middle, but there's also the Dark Knight Returns, an Arkhamverse take on Batman Beyond, which rather than being cartoony, it's more sort of realistic to this world, the Batman Incorporated, which slowly became my favourite because it looks like Jason Fabok's Three Jokers Batsuit. There's also the Batman anime suit, traditional black and grey, Batman Noel, and also the iconic 1989 Batsuit, the Dark Knight suit, Batflex suit, and if you play this on PlayStation, you can run around as Adam West. Gotham City as well feels like it's a merge between the animated series, Tim Burton's universe, and the Nolan series where Gothic architecture meets modern building designs with its skyscrapers, but we've also got the GCPD. Now, there was an old GCPD in Arkham City, which was where we took on Mr. Freeze, but this is the new GCPD where they've moved to, and it has specialised holding cells for some of Gotham's most wanted criminals. There's a sectioned off isolated cell for Poison Ivy to isolate her away from nature before it's used for Man-Bat, and in the DLC, there is a second room with an identical cell that's used to hold Killer Croc. Now, the standard non-meta villains are all thrown together to mingle in one large cell, and if you want to, you can go in and chat to basically everyone inside from the outside of the cell. There's also the evidence room where you can see Easter eggs from previous Batman games and nods to characters that you can tell Rocksteady wanted to add to the series, but couldn't for whatever reason. There's Mr. Freeze's gun, Joker's chattering teeth and gun, Anarchy's jacket, and the mask from Origins, and when you capture villains out in Gotham, their weapons and evidence ends up in this room. It's kinda cool. There's also billboards advertising to fly to Metropolis or to run to Keystone City. And if you even look out, you can see Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and the other island used in Arkham Origins, including that dope double hotel tower, and yes, you can see Wayne Manor as well. Roaming around the city, whether it's in the Batmobile or gliding around the air, is always fun, and graphically, this game still holds up. The character models are insane, and their level of detail looks awesome. There are a couple of murky textures when looking at something like a safe door or non-character models, but still, it's not too bad. Just like in all previous Batman games, Batman takes some serious damage. His starter Batsuit gets damaged a bit quickly. Basically, as soon as you escape from Poison Ivy trying to attack you, you'll notice some scratches and scuff marks all over it, and yep, when you get his dope armor as well, it takes a fucking beating. These are some small details that I always loved. Arkham Knight shoots Batman in the rib between the armor plates and boom, there's a crack where he got shot. Scarecrow coats the city in his fear toxin and the fear toxin stains his suit and his armor. Thankfully too, if you change Batsuits in the game to, the new 52 suit, which is an underrated suit in my opinion, they'll change in the in-game cutscenes too. I don't know why, but I just love when I see some villain deal some damage to Batman and we see that reflect in the suit. But if you do change your suit from the standard Arkham suit to, say, the new 52 suit, damage won't incorporate over to that suit, just as an FYI. Speaking of villains, yes, Arkham Knight is the last game in the trilogy of the Rocksteady Batman games, and it doesn't ignore the events of Arkham Origins. We've got Deathstroke returning, who assumes command of the Arkham Knight's forces after he's been defeated. Firefly returns from Origins 2, and there's references from thugs around Gotham saying that they've been around since Bane's assault on Gotham during the events of Arkham Origins. Deathstroke even makes reference to how Batman was young and angry when he first met him, and now he's more of a controlled person. Outside of the main campaign and just roaming around, there's the return of challenge modes. Yes, there's the standard Predator and combat challenges where you play as Batman and, well, now Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl and even Harley Quinn and Red Hood. But with the introduction of the movie Batmobiles as well as the Batmobile in general, you've now not only got the combat challenges for Batmobiles, but you've got races. Pretty obvious for the Batmobile combat challenges, you can only use the standard Batmobile, but for the races you can use any Batmobile you'd like. And what's even better is that there are racetracks created around the movies. You can drive through scenes created and inspired by Batman 89 and Batman Returns while the iconic Danny Elfman score plays, or you can drive the Adam West Batmobile driving through the sets while the zippy Adam West theme plays. There's of course the Nolan trilogy to drive around through too, but I didn't find the music playing for those challenges very Nolan-y, nor did I recognise them from the films. Now these are just an added game mode to further extend the life of Arkham Knight, and I'll admit, driving through Joker's parade in the 89 Batmobile was pretty rad. Now Arkham Knight does some fantastic things, but there are some areas where it felt a bit and some things I think it needed. For starters, the Batmobile, I don't overly mind it, but I think the way it was introduced to us was a bit poor. Sure, we can have the even the odds moment of the game where we call in the Batmobile, and yes, I didn't mention it before, but the Batmobile works like the horse system in Red Dead. Simply press the relevant button and it comes flying from around a corner. But we are just given this tank Batmobile where it could have been cool if we started the game in the Arkham Asylum Batmobile in the start game Batsuit, and after maybe 10 to 15 to maybe 30 minutes as the player gets used to driving around the Batmobile conventionally, we're introduced to the Arkham Knight who flat up destroys the Batmobile, having Alfred send in the tanky Batmobile due to what's happening in the city. It would explain the tank-like nature of the Batmobile, give us some backstory as to why Batman has a transforming tank as a Batmobile. It also could have explained the weapons on the Batmobile better. If the tank destroyed the original Arkham Asylum Batmobile and Batman knew the drones were unmanned from that, then Batman or Alfred could send in the Tankmobile. It could have worked perfectly as, towards the end of the game, the starter Batmobile is destroyed during a fight with the Arkham Knight, and a second Batmobile is sent in that has all of the relevant upgrades to the Batmobile, and it's sort of brushed away with a line of, yeah, Lucius made a spare.
Where's the Batmobile?
Destroyed.
What?
Don't worry. Lucius made a spare.
Come again.
I mean, I get it, a spare state-of-the-art tankmobile, you're Batman, you always gotta be prepared, but it's an exact, if not a upgraded version of the Batmobile that we've been driving around for the entire game, and it just has a different paint job. We've basically been given a Mark II Batmobile, and this Batmobile should be visually different from the first one, not just a paint job. I mean, let's take a look at Iron Man's suits. Iron Man's suits constantly upgrade and change over the time. If we take a look at, say, Civil War for example, Captain America rips off Iron Man's helmet and he's obviously exposed. But if we look at the suit in Infinity War, now he's got nanotech, so when his armor is exposed, the suit automatically covers the exposed area. See, it's an upgrade to a previous weakness, and I think we needed a new Batmobile actually coming in for this. Still about the Batmobile though, you can flat up run people over in this thing, and if you do connect with any thugs running around, the car will zap them and instantly knock them out. It's kind of funny when you see a crew of enemies try to take you out and you can basically just use the Batmobile to run them all over, but also the riot cannon. The riot cannon is hitting people with some severe force, and like I said, I like the Batmobile, but I think it could have been incorporated and introduced to the game a little differently. After you finish the main campaign too, you can go about capturing any other criminals still running around in Gotham, or finish off any Riddler challenges before activating the Nightfall Protocol, which wraps up the Batman trilogy in a pretty decent way. But if you've got the Season Pass or all of the DLC, then you'll have access to other Batmobiles like the fantastic 89 Batmobile, the Tumbler, the Batman vs Superman Batmobile, Adam West Batmobile, and even the Arkham Asylum one. And while they're great and each Batmobile sounds different, none of the features of the Tankmobile's tank modes are available in any of those Batmobiles, which I get, but also shouldn't be the case for some Batmobiles. For example, obviously the 89 Batmobile can't expand out and fire rockets and such, right? Makes sense, that Batmobile did have guns on it, but not like the Tankmobile. But the Tumbler and the Batfleck Batmobile have weapons and should be able to use the tank mode's abilities on these versions of that Batmobile. It got very frustrating when I just finished the main campaign. I'd choose to drive around in the 89 Batmobile in the 89 Batsuit, and I'd have to use the power winch and the riot cannon to take out enemies that would destroy me otherwise, and having to go back to the main menu to change it. It could have been really cool if you could incorporate the Batwing to call in different versions of the Batmobile, and this was incorporated into the game itself. That say, the Arkham Asylum Batmobile is faster and is better used to take out Firefly or race from one side of the city to the other, but the Tankmobile could be used for tank challenges and could withstand more damage. Arkham City also teased us with Robin appearing during a brief cutscene and later on in some DLC, but Arkham Knight gave us different side missions which incorporated other members of the Bat family. When going after Penguin or Killer Croc, you'd have Nightwing join in with you and you'd basically just do gladiator challenges. When recapturing the Joker's infected patients inside the old movie studio, Robin joined Batman and each patient recapture changed the gameplay. Going after Christina was a Predator challenge mode where Batman and Robin would coordinate attacks and quietly take out enemies. Going up against Albert King was another gladiator challenge that was basically just like fighting alongside Robin, where Johnny Charisma had you play as Robin to disarm bombs while avoiding the gaze of Johnny, which is different and kinda cool and reminded me of the Arkham Asylum Scarecrow missions a little bit. But having Batman and Robin walk around and work together was fantastic. Whether it's playing this game for the 4th time or even for the first time, seeing Batman and Robin work together, all while Batman provides feedback on Robin's techniques and critiquing him, felt like it was pulled straight out of the comics. And that's something we need to see in a live-action movie.
Took your time back there.
I was testing your self-control.
Did I pass?
You need practice. Come on.
What we see and feel here as the player is the best video game, movie and TV version of all Batman and Robin that I've ever seen. Sadly though, Robin is just kept inside the film studio to work on the Joker toxin cure, and multiple times something goes wrong only when we could have immediately contacted Robin or Nightwing to go save someone. It could have been great seeing Robin do more besides just sit inside a studio, and yes, we'll see them do more in the upcoming Gotham Knights, but again, this is my opinion. It could have been cool to use a motorbike around Gotham City as Robin that didn't have a tank mode or the ability to launch itself from the bike, providing us with a bit of a different gameplay style. Now, there are boss fights here in Arkham Knight just like we had in Asylum and City, but they're not necessarily like we've seen them before. There's no Bane to go up against or a Titan-infused goon to watch out for. The largest enemy we take on is Killer Croc, and to deal damage to him, you and Nightwing need to deal damage to goons to fill up your dual takedown meter, which is used to damage Croc. It's a kinda cool mechanic, and as the fight goes on, Croc will start to charge at you and change up his attacks a little bit. Two-Face is a simple Predator challenge. He'll deal damage to you if he sees you, but you can instantly knock him out. Penguin is just an easy takeout too, seeing as he isn't really a challenge. Mr. Freeze's boss fight is a little different too, because there is no Mr. Freeze boss fight. He isn't out to take you down, you're actually helping Mr. Freeze. Ra's al Ghul is too weak to take down and you just take out his assassins. There's only really a handful of fights here. Arkham Knight's first fight is in a tank and you basically need to take out the 4 weak points of the tank and that's it. The tank can deal loads of damage to the Batmobile if the shot connects, and it is also stupidly fast. The second time you face off against him, it's inside underground tunnels and he has a giant drilling machine. You need to force him down tunnels with explosives on it in order to take him out, and just after that, he destroys the Batmobile.
I warned you!
Now the third time you fight him, he's transitioned into the Red Hood, and it's basically a bit of a sniper mission. It's a Predator challenge where you need to get underneath his vantage point and sneak up on him to take him out, and you do it 3 times and that's it. Pretty standard.
Pretty standard, really.
Scarecrow has no boss fight. It is a cutscene that just wraps up the main game, and I kinda prefer this taking him out rather than him transforming into some Titan goon like we got with, the Joker. Man-Bat is just finding him in the world and that's it. No minigame, just listen for his screeches, glide to him, that's it. Firefly is just chase him down until his jetpack runs out of fuel and then just launch yourself from the Batmobile onto him. Sure, he'll drop firebombs that damage the Batmobile, which I don't really understand why driving through fire damages the Batmobile. But I'll admit, I've played this game multiple times and the worst villain to track down or refight is the Riddler, just because there's so many trophies and puzzles. Sure, it's fun the first time you do it, but after that, it's a bit of a chore. Doesn't mean that taking down villains or running around Gotham isn't entertaining, but there's no real boss fights like we had in previous entries in the series. But the environments around each boss or the character themselves are perfect. A ship arrives in Gotham Harbor named Nora, and Arkham soldiers are frozen to the wall. Perfect. A corridor of dead assassins in the hospital for Ra's al Ghul feels like it's been pulled from Metal Gear Solid. Even the Man-Bat's lair, as a small little creepy area, I found myself getting excited when the game would introduce us elements of that villain as we were chasing them and it was setting a scene. Now this might trigger some people, but hear me out. Each Arkham game had introduced an element that made players, or at least me, excited, right? Arkham Asylum obviously had us running around the asylum, and while Mr. Freeze wasn't in the game, we the players got to see his cell, and that got me excited. We also had the Batmobile, which teased us that we would possibly get it in further entries in the series, which I guess it kinda did. Arkham City gave us Robin appearing to help us as Batman stop the League of Assassins running around on rooftops, and he also delivered us a new gadget, and it was a sweet Easter egg, and from that, we got Harley Quinn's Revenge DLC, where we played as Robin. Then we got Robin and Arkham Knight, and not only did the character design look better, we also got the awesome team-up gameplay of Batman and Robin. Now what I think this game needed, and again, personal opinion, this entire YouTube channel is personal opinions, but seeing as this game is the last of the Arkham series, and it closes the book on the Rocksteady Batman, at least for now that is Superman. Yes, I get it, it's a Batman game, so why would we have a Superman cameo? Well, for starters, before we had the Bat family, and it's a fairly large Bat family, it was Batman and Superman. They've shared comics, they've had crossover episodes in the animated series, animated movies, live action movies. There's a reason why they're the world's finest. Secondly, Gotham and Metropolis are basically right next to each other. In this game, Scarecrow uses a chemical weapon to literally coat the city in Scarecrow's new and improved toxins, literally evaporating the rain out of the sky and nearly destroying the city. Now think for a second if you have a friendly neighbor and their house is on fire. You're gonna go check on them, right? You're gonna knock on their door, you're gonna help them put out the fire, something, right? Finally, Batman reaches a pretty low point in this game. Batman mentally snaps a couple of times, Barbara Gordon gets killed, and Batman even locks up Robin in a containment cell as he knows that the news of Barbara's death he'll need to contain him. Things look pretty shit for Batman to the second or third act of this game, yeah? But Superman is also one of Batman's closest allies, and he has super hearing too. Now I'm not suggesting for Superman to rock up and save the day like a Boy Scout, but he could have been used like how say Superman is used in the Hush comic book. Not saying that Poison Ivy needs to take control of him, but he could have been a cool cameo that stops, say, Batman and the Batmobile from falling off the side of a cliff. Or if Batman is chasing down some of the Arkham Knight's goons, he could have sped into the area in a red blur, grabbed the goons and had a Boy Scout manner to them, all while having Kevin Conroy's Batman just blow him off and telling me he didn't ask for help. We've gotten Easter eggs of other DC Universe characters like Superman, Flash and Green Lantern before in the Arkham games, and it could have been cool to see the most recognizable superhero in the world appear in this game. Now probably the biggest thing that Arkham Knight gets wrong, it's the Arkham Knight. When this game was announced and we were getting trailers and teasers, we were introduced to a new character called the Arkham Knight. We, the audience and both game fans and Batman fans, were told this is a brand new character that we've never seen before. The great trick with the Arkham Knight is that he knows all of Batman's tricks and how to get around his gadgets and armor. He points out to attack the joints in the armor rather than the giant bat symbol in the chest. And again, spoilers if you haven't played the game, but it's pretty obvious here. Fans, journalists, and well, everyone asked if this character was Jason Todd or the Red Hood, because we've seen in Arkham City that Robin is Tim Drake. So if we've already established that Robin is Tim Drake, then Jason Todd must exist. We were told no, this is a brand new character and it's not Red Hood. And guess what? Arkham Knight is Jason Todd, who turns into the Red Hood, be it a completely different way from how he traditionally introduces the Red Hood. Now, this was a bit of a letdown as we were all told this is a completely new character, it's not the Red Hood, and about halfway through the game we start to see the Joker and Jason Todd flashbacks, and we're basically spoon-fed that, yeah, Arkham Knight's Jason. The difference here though is that the Joker didn't kill Jason and he's not resurrected using the Lazarus Pit. Instead, he was trapped off in a closed wing of the Arkham Asylum and was tortured by the Joker. Arkham Knight then turns into Red Hood after Batman defeats him and Batman explains that he's still there for him and so on and so forth. And then he just turns into the Red Hood. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Red Hood is a fantastic character and he should be in this Arkham universe, but creating a new character that is basically a Charmeleon stage of the evolution from Robin to Red Hood is kinda shit. But why might Arkham Knight be the best Arkham game? Well, the marketing was be the Batman and they completely nailed that. But the surprise switch up of Mark Hamill returning as the Joker in Arkham Knight was a great switch as well. Yes, the Joker is flat up dead, but he lives inside Batman's mind rent free, and in some instances, as Batman has been infected with the Joker's blood, Joker takes the wheel of Batman's body. And at one instance at the end of the game, Batman loses complete control over his mind to the Joker, and it's a pretty sweet turn of events. At the arse end of the main campaign, some might say at the very end of the campaign, we have another gameplay mechanic similar to that of the start of the game where we played as a police officer, but instead, the Rogues Gallery have captured the Joker and the game turns into a very, very light third-person shooter, and even a first-person shooter where we sort of experience the fear that Batman can cause to, well, anyone. And even though I've played this before, the jump scare still fucking got me. But we get this internal struggle between the Joker wanting to keep control of Batman's mind and body, and realizing the Joker's greatest fear is being forgotten, seeing as he's dead, and he's no longer really relevant to Gotham in a sense. But Arkham Knight not only wraps up the story of Batman, but it also wraps up the story of the Joker. It gives a send-off to Mr. Freeze too in a really nice and sweet way. It wraps up Ra's al Ghul's story from Arkham City too. All of Batman's rogues have been captured and locked away. We now also get a wrap up of the interesting Hush story arc that started in City, but honestly, it's wrapped up pretty quickly and poorly here in this game. But other than that, in my personal opinion, this game wraps up pretty damn well, just like Return of the Jedi wraps up the original Star Wars trilogy pretty damn well. There are some short fallings, but all of these can be personal to everyone. We're getting a continuation of this universe with Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, and there's some Arkham Easter eggs in the trailer too. I'm personally interested to know what Harley Quinn is like and how she goes from her obsession with the Joker to her roller derby stylings that she's now using in the comics. This year too, we're also getting Gotham Knights, which yes, has us play as the Bat family defending Gotham after Batman has quote unquote died. Warner Brothers Games has also announced that the team who did the Lord of the Rings Shadow and War for Mordor games is doing a Wonder Woman game, and those Lord of the Rings games are fantastic, and I might have to go back and take a look at those as well. Now, this isn't the end of the Batman Arkham series for me. I've covered all of the previous DLC and I'll be doing the same here with Arkham Knight. Yes, I've covered all the DLC with Mr. Freeze and Killer Croc, but not the standalone Nightwing, Red Hood, Robin, Harley Quinn or Catwoman DLC, which is set after the ending of Arkham Knight. I've had a blast going back and playing my favourite series of games with a new eye. I've played them multiple times in the past before, but I've never played them like this where I explain what I love about them, but also what I'd like to see in the future. I, like most people, would like to see another Batman game like this, but also that it incorporates some features from newer Warner Brothers games, like the ability to customize outfits and gears and abilities like we can in, say, the Shadow and War for Mordor games, where we can equip and create our own Batman, how we can change our chest logo, our cowl, our cape, our belt like we can in Injustice 2. So we can not only be the Batman, but we can make our own. Personally, I'd love to see for one of these Batman games to come out where we can make and change the Batsuit to give him a cape that covers not only his back, but the front of his body hiding his arms, a bit like the Tim Burton Batsuits or the animated series. Where we can pick short ears, tall ears or normal ears, and we can change the colour of the suit and the cape, and even change the Batmobile as well. But aside from that, Rocksteady's Batman Arkham series has got to be one of the greatest video game series of all time. Each entry has a solid story, returning voice actors from the animated series, heaps of Easter eggs that'll get any DC fan excited. The series does end on a great note, and I don't overly want to spoil anything for you. All I hope is that we don't have someone come along and make another Batman game and ruin the series like what's happened to Gears of War. Arkham Origins was a fun prequel, and it didn't overly ruin anything that Rocksteady had already created. Thankfully, Rocksteady are doing Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and I'm more than eager to see what's been happening in the Rocksteady universe and what we get moving forward from them. Gotham Knights looks like it's going to be great fun, and being able to play as the Bat family in a multiplayer style game as well is something that me and my mate Davo are going to have a load of fun with, and that game is set in a separate universe too. So while the gameplay and mechanic can be ported over from the Arkham games, they can do whatever they want story-wise because it's a different universe. It's hopefully not long now until we get Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, and I've still got the DLC for Arkham Knight. But the Batman story ends here for now. At least the Rocksteady Batman ends here.